Hey soapy folks, this is Kevin with Divinely Design, and we have a soap video. I haven't done a soap video in a long time. This is going to be a kind of complicated soap, but I'm doing this sort of in honor of my 1-year soaping anniversary. On July 11th of 2013, I made my first soap. So I am recreating that soap. That soap was sort of a bee-centered soap. So I'm recreating it, redoing it. I ended up really not using that soap. It was fine, but it was very sort of messy and chunky, and I think I've come a long way since then. So I'm in honor of that, I am redoing the concept of that soap with a bee themed soap, and I'm going to call it BEE-licious. So let's go over the recipe. It's a little bit of a complex soap, so stick with me. Let's go over the oils first. So here I have 349 grams of olive oil pomace, 314 grams of avocado oil, and I have that separate. I'm going to talk about that in a second over here. In my bowl, 218 grams of 76-degree coconut oil, 174 grams of cocoa butter, 174 grams of shea butter, 131 grams of castor oil. I'm going to be adding some additives to it. So I have 60 grams of honey. My honey is from a friend, a local beekeeper, who was nice enough to give me that. I'm also going to be using about 2 teaspoons of bee pollen. Now, bee pollen is interesting. I brought this out. I got it from online. This is where I got it, but you can get a nice big jar of it. And it has these big granules in it, which are actually pretty hard. But I needed it to be like a powder, so I put it into a grinder, and like a coffee grinder, a spice grinder, and I ground it up nice and fine. So there's 2 teaspoons of that. Bee pollen has a lovely smell. It's similar to sort of raw beeswax that's not been processed. It has sort of a honey scent, a slightly floral scent, but the pollen itself has more of an earthy quality to it, so I really like it. And people eat bee pollen. They put it on yogurt or just on food and sprinkle on it, so I'm going to add this to my soap. I also have a mixture of Fuller's Earth and oatmeal milk, colloidal oatmeal, about 2 teaspoons of each, and I just sort of mix them together. I'll be using activated charcoal to color one of the sides of the soap. So that's black, but it's also as an additive, so activated charcoal. That's from Nature's Garden. The Fuller's Earth is from thesage.com, and the colloidal oatmeal is from Brambleberry. What other additives? I have some beeswax back here, 60 grams of beeswax. This is the yellow beeswax. It's not been processed. Well, it's been processed. It's been cleaned. But it still smells like honey and lovely. I love the smell of beeswax. For fragrances, I am using 80 grams total, 40 grams each of oatmeal milk and honey from Brambleberry, and a fragrance from Nature's Garden called Honey Bunny. So it has a very sweet floral smell to it, but it also has, you know, the oatmeal milk and honey kind of fragrance. If you ever smelled that, I love that fragrance. For colors, I'm going to be doing black, which I will use the activated charcoal for, but I'm also going to be doing yellow, and this is Neon Yellow from TKB Trading. I'm going to try to do some oil in mica swirls on top. So I have, these are both from Elements Bath & Body. Let me get their names here. One is Pearl Black mica, and this one is Golden Honey mica. I'm going to try those. And, okay, and then for lye, we have 182 grams of lye and 334 grams of water. Okay, my temperature of my oils is pretty hot right now. It's 135, but it's because my beeswax is 70 something. So I want to add that now to hot oils so the beeswax doesn't get all chunky. So that's why I have my oils kind of hot. So I'm going to add, oh, before I do that, let me also talk about this. This is avocado oil that I have infused with bee balm. Bee balm is a flowering plant, but it was used by Native Americans for medicinal qualities, to use in poultices to treat minor cuts and bruises, and I think they used it for insect bites as well. And I forget the herbal profile totally on it, but I have done it really just for label kind of appeal, right? It's sort of, bee balm infused in this bee-themed soap. Now let me also say that the bee balm that I used was just the raw plant. So just a word of caution, when you do infusions, you should be using dried herbs. When you use the raw plant, because there is water in it, you do run the risk of things growing in it, and probably the biggest concern would be botulism. Now, because I'm going to add this to soap where I will be adding lye, there's no risk of that. But if you're going to do infused oils for cooking purposes, or even things like leave-on products, you should be using the dried herbs, not the raw plants themselves, because of the risk of microbes that could get into it. Okay? So we'll be doing that. All right. So here we go. I think I want to add my beeswax now because I don't want it to sort of separate out. And it did anyway. So I'm going to have to heat my oils. All right, they weren't hot enough. Hold on one second. Okay, so I just heated up my oils a little bit. My temp now of my oils is actually 230, but we're going to begin lowering that just by adding stuff in. I'm going to add in my honey. My honey, this is the last of my local honey. I have a friend who has a small beehive collection, I guess, and was nice enough to give me some of his honey. So this is local honey, and I'm just going to use the temperature of my oils because they're pretty hot to get that honey all mixed in here. I'm just going to let it dissolve. And this smells so good already. The cocoa butter, has that nice chocolatey smell. But now I have sort of the sweet honey smell coming through from the beeswax and the honey. Okay. Just going to let that mix in there a little bit. Now I'm going to pour in my avocado oil soon, and that's going to start to bring the temperature down. Because my avocado oil wasn't heated, I kept it out separately. Just want to make sure I'm giving that honey a chance to incorporate into the oils here. Okay. So here comes the avocado oil. And I should have brought a flower down. The bee balm is from my garden, actually. I live in Philadelphia, but I have a roof deck, and on my roof deck I have a garden, mostly in containers, but I do have a raised bed that I purchased that's on my roof deck. So I have a whole wall full of sort of clay pots that have herbs in them, and in one of those I planted some bee balm at the beginning of the summer, specifically because I knew I was going to be making this soap. I should have brought a flower down. It's just starting to flower now. They're very pretty flowers. And they have a very nice sort of soft floral smell to them. Okay, let's see where our temperature is now. Alright, so 190, which is still pretty hot for me to soap, but I normally do room temperature. Okay, before I add my lye, because I have a feeling this is going to speed up some, I want to add my other additives. So I'm going to add my bee pollen and my colloidal oatmeal and Fuller's Earth. Get those in there. Get them all mixed up. Okay. Now the only reason I'm doing that is so I don't have to spend extra time sort of messing with them after I get the lye in. And I think I might do the fragrance now too, just before I get the lye going. And I'm just thinking the yellow portion, well, we'll see. Because I added those the Fuller's Earth, which is a clay, you know, which is kind of dark, I'm hoping it won't turn my yellow dark yellow. I kind of want it to be a nice bright yellow. I'm going to add my fragrance now. So that's oatmeal milk and honey and a fragrance oil called Honey Bunny. And we'll give that a little stir. Okay. And then I think I'm going to add my lye. My plan is to split it into a black and a yellow batch, and I'll be using the Tallinn Skitty mold from American Soap Supplies, and I'll be attempting to do a tiger swirl. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how this all reacts. But here goes my lye. Now I'm just going to go for emulsification. I'm not really looking for trace because I want to move quickly, although it's quickly moving to trace, I see. Alright, so I'm going to pour off a bunch of this. Oh, it's becoming very thick. Well, I may not be able to do a tiger swirl. I knew that might be a problem. Okay. So, in goes the yellow. We might be doing a layered soap. Get that mixed up. Or okay, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of time, and I knew this might happen because it's really heating up, but we'll see. You know what? I'm going to put this back in here, I think, because I'm not going to be able to... Oh my goodness, it got all chunky already. This is something that happened to the first time I did this soap also, is it because of the honey and the additives it gets, and because I'm soaping so hot, because of the beeswax, it thickens up right away. But we will soldier on here. I'm going to add my activated charcoal. Okay. So this is very thick, but it's still workable at the moment. So instead of doing a tiger swirl, which I was probably a little optimistic about doing, we'll do a layered soap. Obviously black and yellow layers, right, to try and, you know, get the bee theme going, but I don't know if this yellow will really take much. It's sort of got a honey color to it. That's okay. I can live with that. All right. So in goes some black. Okay, and let's nice firm tap. Okay, the black. It's interesting, the black is staying a little bit more fluid. Wow, the yellow one is very thick. I'll give it a good stir here. Ooh, and it's super hot. Okay. Oh, I'm going to have extra soap left over. I haven't used this mold that much. This might be my only the third time I've used it. I think I made my recipe thinking about my other mold. Okay. Sorry, this is thick. I'm trying to loosen it up a little bit by stirring it. Okay. Alright, so that's okay, I think. A little extra leftover soap, but that should be okay. Alright. And then, this is super hot. We'll see if we can do a little bit of a swirl on top here. All right. So it's not, I know it's not gonna, I won't be able to sort of swirl it. Not a whole lot, but we'll just try to make the top pretty here. Okay, and we'll add a little black. This black is has a little shimmer in it too, so it's I'm not going to add quite as much of the black as the gold. Okay. All right, and then I think I may try to do a little bit of a swirl here. But I think I'd like let's see, what can I use? I was going to use something thin. But I guess I can use my chopstick here. Okay. I think I'm gonna play with the top just a little bit more, maybe add a little bit more gold mica here. I don't have a lot left anyway, but I think what I have left I may add. Okay. All right, that's it for the making, and then stay tuned for the unmolding and cutting of my BEE-licious soap. Okay, so we're back here, and we're here for the unmolding and the cutting of BEE-licious. Now, you may notice that my top changed slightly from when I was making it yesterday. It started to sort of volcano, and I tried to sort of correct it, but I messed up the top a little bit. But I ended up putting some glitter on just to make it shiny. So, okay. Now, this is a tall, skinny mold. I use the red cutter here from Essential Depot, which which fits their mold perfectly. This one's a little longer, so I usually have to try and finagle this a little bit because it doesn't quite Oh, it should fit. I'll just make the end pieces will be a little bit thick. We use those for samples, I guess. Okay. Alright, there we are. So not quite, as stripy as I wanted it, and the yellow color that I used for this portion didn't really get yellow at all. It stayed sort of its natural color, but that still looks pretty cool. I mean, it's, I was going for a vaguely bee theme, so black and kind of this brown color is fine. And the tops look pretty nice. I mean, they're nice and sparkly, for just a little bit of fun with it. I do get the fragrances that come through the oatmeal milk and honey, but I will tell you, like, the beeswax and honey itself lends a very nice bit to it as well. So, all right, well, that's someone at my door. So that's about it. Nothing real to check out here. This is Kevin with Divinely Designed. Check back for more bath and beauty videos. Thanks. Bye.